Elderly man watches a construction worker every day. When he finds out why, his heart breaks. Your twilight years are meant to be full of love and happiness, but for some it can be a time of loneliness and regret. Too many older people are often forgotten in nursing homes when they're older. Families can be too busy to stop by, and time passes slowly for those waiting on a visit. At first, for Ohio construction worker Shawn Beveridge, the daily appearance of an elderly man at his work site didn't cause much of a stir. But when the older man kept returning day after day, he began to wonder who he was. Arriving in his wheelchair, the stranger would roll up to the sidewalk outside the nursing home where he lived. He would park himself squarely in front of where Beveridge was working and spend the entire day just watching as the men worked. The old man would bring his lunch and leave only when Beveridge was done working for the day. Curious, Beveridge decided it was time to see why the man kept coming to visit. Since day one when I arrived on this job site, I've noticed him sitting there every morning from 7 a.m. He takes lunch when we do and doesn't leave until I shut the crane down and head out, Beveridge wrote on Facebook. I originally had thought to myself, he's just a curious old man and wanting to enjoy his days outside versus being cooped up in his room. Well, after a couple days, I myself got curious, so I walked over and introduced myself to him. Beveridge learned that the man, Harold, had been unable to work as a crane operator any longer after multiple health issues arose. Now, confined to a wheelchair and living at the nursing home, he had found comfort in watching Beveridge work. What was supposed to be a quick chat turned into more than 2 hours of talking, as Beveridge and Harold became fast friends. Beveridge learned why Harold was in a nursing home. His heart valves are clogged and some disease has been eating at him for years, he wrote. He said he enjoys seeing what he used to love to do for a living and never thought he'd ever be able to see or be around a crane again, and let alone be so close to see one in action. Harold told Shawn he had 3 children, but hadn't seen them in 7 years, since he had been in the nursing home. That news spurred Beveridge to make Harold a deal. Our deal is this: Harold ran cranes for over 50 years, and no matter how good you think you are at something, there's always more to learn. So I told Harold every day after work I'll sit with him for a little bit so he can critique me and judge me on how I did for that day. The older man jumped at the chance. Beveridge wrote that he told Harold in return he would bring him a black coffee every morning for as long as I'm here and buy him lunch twice a week from wherever he chooses. He didn't skip a beat before absolutely came out of his mouth. Beveridge went on to write, I guess I'm writing this post because if I would have never walked over to him I would have never gotten to know him. I'm thankful to have the opportunity to make this man's last days enjoyable, filled with purpose, and be able to help him smile again. I challenge any of you on here to not be like I was in the beginning, and don't be afraid to make someone else's day better.